Today, I'm opening a bank account in Cuenca, Ecuador. Let's go. G'day expats, this week I decided to open a new bank account here in Cuenca, Ecuador, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to show you the requirements and the process. It's actually becoming a little bit more difficult to open bank accounts here, especially if you only have a passport. It's definitely much easier with an Ecuadorian identity card or cedula, which you can obtain once you have your temporary residency. You'll see that in this video, even I had trouble with the requirements as I failed opening a bank account at my first bank of choice. And there are plenty of banks to choose from in Ecuador, and it is super convenient because we also use the US dollar here as the official currency. Most expats do decide to open a bank account here once they've made the decision to stay in Ecuador long term. And why is this? There's actually a few reasons. Firstly, Ecuador is still largely a cash society, so you're just not going to be able to rely on your plastic for many of your purchases. Now, even if I wanted to use debit or credit cards from outside of Ecuador, you will find that the ATM and credit card fees quickly add up. Now, of course, if you do have a fee-free account like Charles Schwab, then this is going to be much less painful. Now, side note, if you are looking for the cheapest ways to transfer money into Ecuador, go check out this video. And lastly, it is also quite common to pay for things here via bank transfer. For example, I do pay my dentist, mechanic, and vet via bank transfer as they don't accept debit or credit cards, and I really don't like walking around with a bunch of cash on me. Now, of course, I could do a bank transfer from outside of Ecuador, but that's going to cost me, I don't know, $10 or $15 every single time I wanted to do that. So obviously, it's much better to have a local account for these. Why did I decide to open up a new account? I do already have an account with JET, which is a very popular cooperativa here amongst expats, and I do use this all the time and I find it very convenient for most transfers. However, I did decide to open up a new account with either Banco or Pichincha because it's much easier to trade Bitcoin here with these accounts. For example, transfers from one Pichincha account to another are super quick, which is really what you want when you're buying and selling Bitcoin. And we do have a video on the ins and outs of trading Bitcoin here in Ecuador if you're into that sort of thing. But for now, let's get into the meat of today's video, how to open a bank account here in Ecuador. My first attempt at opening an account was with Banco. I just so happened to be purchasing insurance from Blue Box here in Cuenca in the neighborhood known as Gringolandia, and there happens to be a Banco branch right next door. Super convenient. So I went in and I asked both the teller and the commercial manager what I needed in order to open an account, and it all sounded super straightforward. I even asked if I could open an account with just my passport, and again, I got a very positive response, which basically amounted to, sure, just bring in a copy of your passport and you're good to go. Now, I was in a rush that day, so I had to come back the next day. And I was also armed with some additional documents like a utility bill and a copy of my cedula just in case they needed it. And turns out, when we actually tried to open an account, their system required a bunch of additional documents.
Well, that was a big fat fail. I didn't have some sort of work reference, so the bank wouldn't let me open an account. Let's explain more in detail.
And so what exactly did they need? They needed a copy of my utility bill to prove my current address, and it's important that this needs to be either electricity, gas, or water. They would not accept my Itapa internet contract. They also needed a copy of my cedula. Great, I had that. They also wanted a personal reference from someone with a landline, as mobile phones aren't accepted, and they also needed $10 initial deposit. And these first four requirements were all pretty standard and honestly pretty easy to get, but it was this new fifth requirement that caused the problem. And this requirement was to prove that I had some Ecuadorian-based income, and I failed this requirement miserably. See, all of my clients are based in the US or Australia, and I have previously tried to pick up some Ecuadorian clients for my digital marketing business, but the reality is that most businesses don't understand or value digital marketing here. Most don't even have a website, which makes it very tough to have Ecuadorian-based clients. Now, but if I am being completely honest, I could have just asked a business to provide a carta de trabajo or some sort of similar business reference, which indicated I was bringing in some type of Ecuadorian-based income, and this would have sufficed for this requirement. And this definitely would have been my next move if my second bank account of choice also denied my application. Purdue Banco did offer me a digital bank account called BE that they say is the same as a traditional bank account in that you still get a debit card, but you just don't have access to any of the branches. And I honestly did want to have access to the branches, so I wasn't sure if this was going to work for me. So I declined this offer and I did go elsewhere. But before we move on, this experience touches on something that is actually fairly common here, and it can be incredibly frustrating if you're not aware of it. And this is the cultural tendency to please at the expense of being right. For example, when I asked what the requirements were for opening an account, I didn't get the full answer that would have made my life much easier in the long run. Instead, I got a response based on what the staff thought I wanted to hear, and this pleased me in the short term. And this can result in a lot of confusion when trying to wade through the mountains of red tape that you might come across during everyday life. A prime example of this are residency visas. When I tried to apply for my visas on my own, I was greeted with a wall of misinformation, and my attempts to dig deeper were often met with quick responses designed basically to just get rid of me so they can deal with the next person. And another example of this is the beautiful coffee station that my family had custom made for me recently. We really do enjoy having furniture, crafts, shoes, and a bunch of other stuff made here, but you really need to stay on top of the manufacturer, or you run a big risk of receiving something very different to what you expected. Here's the photo that we sent to them. I think it's from Etsy. And here is the finished product. And now, to be clear, we are happy with the finished product, but there's several important details that are very different to what we expected and frankly what we wanted to pay for. And this happened even though we were very clear on every tiny detail. Why did we think that we were clear on every tiny detail? Because after explaining each of these, we were greeted with an enthusiastic yes, no problem, or of course. And we did end up paying them 10% less than the agreed price because of these changes. And honestly, this really wasn't a big deal for us. We're still very happy with the coffee station, but similar situations occur in much bigger projects like constructing a house. The please now and hope they don't notice later mentality is definitely something that you should be aware of. With one fail under my belt, I pushed on to my second choice, Banco Pichincha. This bank is one of the more professionally run banks here in Ecuador, and so I was hoping the process would be transparent and easy. And I am pleased to say that I had a positive experience. They mostly had similar requirements to Purdue Banco, but notably, they did not require Ecuadorian-based income. Pichincha required a basic service contract, again, electricity, gas, or water, a copy of my cedula, and $5 deposit to obtain a debit card. And that was it. They didn't need proof of Ecuadorian-based income. They did ask me some income-based questions, but for the sake of simplicity, I just told them about one investment property overseas, and they were happy with this. I think the real difference between the two banks is how they define a foreigner. You see, because I had a cedula, Pichincha was happy to treat me like an Ecuadorian. But Purdue Banco had a different policy, and they still effectively classified me as a foreigner even though I have a cedula. I did try to dig into what Pichincha would require if I only had a passport, but the information I received conflicted with the requirements they posted online, and because I didn't actually open an account with just my passport, I don't want to give you the wrong details, so I'm going to leave that for another day.
Success! I have a brand new account at Banco Pichincha. Happy days!
I know this isn't the most exciting topic, but I do think it's a necessary one for new expats, and I hope that you've gained something from it. If so, please do subscribe to our channel and leave us a quick thumbs up. But if you want to contribute financially, then please feel free to buy us a coffee treat for our eventual coffee farm. There's a link here in the details. Now, if you are either in Cuenca or thinking about moving here, and the prospect of opening a bank account on your own just seems like a little too daunting, feel free to get in contact with us about our general facilitation services. And that's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Ciao, chicos! And I thought it's a great